Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Bagel Foundation and the chat that is hosted by Bagel's Cafe. And Bagel Cafe is our dialogue series that hosts our master classes. And we focus at being CEO ready. We are a Foundation Section 8 company that has only one mission. How do you make women CEO ready? And when we say make, we only inspire, and we get industry stalwarts to come and talk to us and share their insights. This series is number 2 in our session, and what we call it is building equity. How do you build strategic relationships? And of course, it's focused at women leaders. And we have such a pleasure of here Manu Wadhwa. She's a dear friend and old, wonderful colleague from my past, but much younger colleague, I would say, and absolutely far more dynamic than I have seen any other HR in my life to date. So Manu, thank you so much for making it a very, very warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Supriya. The pleasure is equally mine, and it's such a pleasure to be at a platform which is promoting not just entrepreneurship spirit in women, but at large elevating the game for all of us together. So very, very pleased and look forward to the interaction in the next 90 minutes.
Thank you, Manu. Like I said, excited to be here. And for all our participants logging online, for all our Bagel members, a very warm welcome again. I would love to, with great pleasure, introduce Manu. So give me a few moments while I read out just a snippet of all the accomplishments that she has in her stride. Manu's Chief Human Resources Officer, Sony Pictures Networks. I love the way she starts. Excellence is not a skill, it's an attitude. And we are going to unfold a lot of that in our conversation today. With a diverse career spanning over 2.5 decades across multiple industries and geographies, Manu has steered organizations chartered in people agenda of globally dynamic organizations like Sony Pictures Networks, Coca-Cola, American Express, and of course GE, where we had the fortune of meeting. And she has done a variety of roles, a spectrum of roles involving culture, leadership, talent, mergers, acquisitions, and integrations, HR transformation, change, and of course, digital innovation. She also operates in board positions wherein she's entrusted to advise the board and the operating management on market growth strategies, governance, and culture dynamics. Manu is a graduate of the proud GE Human Resource Leadership Program, and started her career as a finance analyst with Tata Unisys. Besides her corporate endeavors, Manu is an active industry spokesperson, participant in the country's growth efforts, championing the case of technology and innovation, inclusion and diversity, gig work formats, and business transformation. Serves as a board member and advisor for several companies and industry associations, and you just name a few, such as CII, IMA, the All India Management Association, Society for Human Resource Management, and of course the Frontier Group of companies. In her recent past, Manu has had various accolades. She has steered industry agendas such as Genesis, which is an HR innovation platform for capturing the voiced youth of India under the aegis of CII. She's also led Khul Ke Bolo, I love that, a women empowerment campaign to enable women of our country to speak up about their mental well-being challenges and, of course, come forward and seek support all around them. For her constant efforts, of course, there's recognition that flows her way. She's been recognized as top HR thought leaders and CHROs by various forums and publications such as ET HR, Most Influential HR Leader 2023, HR Association of India 2023, Trailblazing Women Leaders, Business World Top HR Voices 2022, Postima School Margdarshak Award 2022 for Transformational Leadership, amongst many others. Oh my God, what a pleasure. I think you have a very bright background. I'm wearing a bright shirt, Manu, and now we look forward to lighting this up with your presence and the answers that you're going to give. So if that's okay with you, we will start our masterclass in a fireside format.
Absolutely. And I must kind of first compliment the way you enlightened my journey itself, because sometimes it feels good to look back and have a recollection of all that you went through, because people see the iceberg's top and there's a lot that goes below it. So I hope to be able to share what's been beneath the iceberg.
Thank you, Manu. And we are interested in only that. The iceberg will have a view from distance, but this one we would love to get is like they say, what happens behind the lens. So thank you so much. I expect nothing but the absolute great stuff from you. Manu, we'll begin with the first thing that comes to mind is your journey. on becoming the CHRO of Sony Pictures Networks, and what pivotal moments you would believe have shaped your career path?
So, if the audience would indulge me for some time, I'm going to walk you through my life journey. I think it's a story tell, and hopefully that story tell also gives you some milestones that helped me be who I am today. And my motto continues to be that life is a journey and not a destination. So I continue to explore a lot of what life has to offer, including career choices being one of them. So, with that, born in a lovely town called Jaipur, Rajasthan, from humble backgrounds, large family, and you were fighting for meals, to fighting for space, to fighting for everything under the sun. So, being a hustler in an entrepreneurial family, call it came in genes and call it in the nurture world. Grew up to really have a set of mentors and coaches around me who taught me to aim for the sky. And that was right from the time I was in school. So started early on working while I was getting educated. And that's where in college I worked as a finance analyst with Tata Unisys. My biggest learning at that point of time was that there's nothing bigger than the kick of being independent and understanding the value of what you earn, because responsibility comes very early on. Why there is a pocket money of 500 rupees. So, for at that point of time, which used to come my way through this job, which I used to start at about 7 a.m. in the morning and go until 12, then rush to the college and then come back. It taught me the spirit of never saying no to any challenge that comes my way, and at the same time taught me many more things about life, which is what do you want is one thing, but working hard for it is non-negotiable. So you can always dream, but hard work is non-negotiable. Talent works hard and drives success, but only talent does not help anybody. So that was kind of my first pivotal moment as I look back. That hustling got me on to realizing that I want to do further bigger things in life and fly high. And at that time, flying high used to be a very different view than where I see the lens today. Did my master's, and that's where you and I had the pleasure of bumping into each other. And from the interesting story that we share, for me, that pivotal moment of moving to a world recognized corporation was the start of what I call as important learnings of life and career. It's very important to choose the people and the brand you work with. It's very important to choose the ecosystem you work with because it shapes the person that you are in times to come. So it's a very common saying a person is known by the company they keep. And that became a reality for me with the start of my career professionally with GE and the amazing colleagues and leaders I had around, including you, Supriya. I
But
think followed two tracks after it. Also got married around the same time, and my husband and I had a distant marriage relationship because we both were ambitious. Careers were important to us, and we lived in different parts of the country. Also realizing our dreams, hopefully taking shape every day as we hustled. And hustling came in early on, so that continued along. The next tipping point for my world of work came in when I got into GE's accredited leadership program. And why I call it a pivotal moment was not because of the credit worthiness of the program and the way it grinded one as professionals. But the pivotal moment for me were the choices one had to make on what you wanted to learn. And for me, the learning as I look back was choosing complex over easy. So every single time the organization gave me an assignment to choose from, I chose the complex over easy. And one of those complex ones were choosing the head of HR as a secondee for Budapest Bank. When I went to Hungary, had the pleasure of serving as the head of HR for the bank, which was newly acquired by GE around a few years ago, and they wanted to have a cultural integration of the bank, and they wanted to have somebody who came in with a very different lens and provided an outside-in view. While all this seems glossy and lovely on a paper, I chose the complex because I knew I'll face the hardship on the basics of food to basics of language with no friends. And Budapest was one place there was hardly any local citizen around. Everybody was Hungarian, 95% Hungarian was spoken. And I learned the art of influencing through sign language and through smiles and through sharing meals, even if you did not understand the language. So came in my way those choices which made me realize that one has to expand their boundary and continue to experiment with yourself without a fear of failure. And some of these choices, I think, continue to build my career, came back to do some interesting assignments, including being the head of HR for Budapest Bank's point of view. The next one was G Money Wizard. We had acquired that bank. And again, that choice came in versus doing another vertical, which was a very comfortable vertical. And my then leader said, hey, this is going to be an acquisition driven role. Would you like to do it? And I said, yes. Again, complex over easy. I'd love to pick this up. Moving in life, my personal life was continuing to be as tumultuous as one could be. Distant marriage relationships are difficult. And my husband and I, during that point of time, decided that I think we need to put a pin to the map of India to settle ourselves. And Gurgaon, Delhi became that point for us because we both were traveling, we both were doing different things. And that's when the choice of next career came in and American Express. The pivotal moment of American Express again exposed me to a very different, larger ecosystem and another dynamically global organization along with its people. That time also became very critical because I entered into financial services when the largest crisis on financial services was happening in the world, 2007 and 8.
Oh my God.
And to walk into a company which was almost planning a doomsday and, being with that organization without any emotional relatability taught me another lesson of life that once you put your finger into something, make sure you are able to convert that involvement of yours from one finger to your full body, mind, and soul's compassion and energy being put into driving and creating a turnaround for the company that you are in. You never know the end outcome, but you've already entered, right? You've already entered the doorstep. So it kind of just again strengthened my resilience in a newer ecosystem to help the newer ecosystem while they were going through the challenges, settling in myself as much. Well, roles keep on coming in. They kept on expanding in their horizons thanks to the amazing set of coaches and leaders I circled myself around with. What happened in my personal life was the parallel track I was talking about. I had tackled the zone of mobility to some extent, had taken some international assignments, liked them, came back. The next zone to tackle was really motherhood. And that was a very interesting dynamic with a full-fledged job, and one took a plunge to it. I delivered twins at the time when I almost raised my hand and told the organization in 2011 that, hey, I'm calling it quits. I think I have more than enough in my life to do. And that's when another element of my life came into picture, and why I'm double clicking on some of them is because it's the nuggets of these learnings is what that has kind of made me to be the person that I am. At that point of time, when I was about to fall off the corporate cliff, I was about to fall off this amazing mountain of corporate ride, and I was doing some amazing roles. The mentors, the coaches, the sponsors whom I had built over the years came in to rescue me. And they said, no, we're going to give you the air cover. Feel free to fall in your journey as a corporate professional, but we're going to give you the air cover. Do whatever it takes to manage your personal life. We're going to manage your... And that delivered for me another message that you need to continue to build allyship for yourself in order for the tough times to become easier, because those allies then become your net to support you in the complexity of professional life. If that was not there, I personally believe I would have been somewhere else. So these are life's choices and, work-throughs. Fast-tracking that to doing some of the world-class global roles. I was heading transformation for American Express globally. It came in again at a time when I had delivered the twins and I was given this air cover thinking that I'll be able to have a nice, comfy life. And the same set of leaders say, hey, you can do everything under the sun. So we're giving you this global role, which is 5 individuals from around the world chosen to do this, and you're one of them. So all of this baggage came in again from a standpoint of possibly being able to balance the priorities of life and having the mentors and coaches who could walk me through that tough rides. Did that for 4 years. finally realizing a lot's happening on the slate and mobility no more being my personal choice. That's when I shifted my next leg of assignment to Coca Cola. That assignment again had a very pivotal role to play in my career journey. And this is something which I kind of balance off with, again, the choices one makes. The pivotal moment over there for me was acknowledgement of the culture fit, acknowledgement of the places I'd like to be. And that assignment in 2.5 years taught me that, hey, this is a place I want to take leave from faster. And for me, the pivotal moment was I wish I had done a deeper dive into looking at what that career choice looked like. So, taking that journey forward, Sony Pictures, which is where I am now, I have crossed over 5.5 years with this amazing organization, doing a blend of human resources to business strategy roles, shuttling between Delhi, Bombay, so where you know the rights that there are.
Sure.
But I have tried in all of these facets of my career choices to continue to push for doing newer things, continuing to evolve, innovate, continuing to challenge the status quo, be resilient, not cry over a failure, but just move on from it. And while my pit stop's here right now, and I'm sure the journey ahead is going to be equally exciting.
Outstanding. Oh my God. I was taking notes to say number of quality nuggets, insights, advice for career, self, work-life balance, assignment, cultural fit. When you can't come out, go all in. Oh my God, Manu, it is like we can spend the next 2 hours just peeling a bit by bit of everything that you said here. But thank you so much for sharing it. Oh my God, love it, absolutely love it. And congratulations on the twins. I didn't even know that. Oops, how did I miss that one? How old are they now?
So 30 now.
Trouble teen troubles. It
Yes.
took them. Well, you need to
Yes.
double click for a very obvious reason. That must be your favorite phrase.
Absolutely.
I would love to meet them when I'm there in Gurgaon next. Super.
Yes.
I still remember the royal, right? Where was it? The Orchid Garden days, right? That was fascinating. Fascinating. Oh, no, lovely, Manu. Thank you so much. You know, we can take a leaf from anything and everything, like you said, Manu, that you have said. And the few of the things that absolutely I love, and I am sure the participants are going to have fun. Hustler. We talk about being a hustler in the entrepreneurial space, but being a hustler in corporate, for me, that's really a new one, which is fascinating. I just love that. How do you hustle? How do you have the art of influence through smile? That is fascinating. You know, sign language. How do you make sure you take assignments? We've been taught in GE that, err on the side of the big challenge. And that's something we all always telling, especially women leaders, take risky assignments. Fascinating. The allyships. How do you build? There is not a sentence, I think, when you did not mention your coaches, your mentors, your sponsors. This is such an intricate part of the fabric of career in the life and you personally that, you have built in. And that's amazing to see that thread come up so beautifully. So thank you so much for that. Now, we're double clicking into our session today, and no better person than you, Manu, to help us demystify that. When you talk about building equity in the context of strategic relationships that women leaders need to build in, because it's equity in the corporate, right? You have equity, there'll be red carpets for you. You don't have equity, we know what happens. How do you think you define that, and what would be your guidance on that to take that forward?
When I was looking at the word equity, when the team and I were talking about it, for me, the word equity comes in from multitude angles. One is, as you rightly stated, what's your shareholder value? Like you're a stock in a company, what's your value? That's one element of equity. The other element, which I think is also about, do you get treated with fairness, with respect, with justice in the corporation that you're working in? Do you demand that credibility, that you are recognized as somebody who can be trusted with organization's objectives that one is leading? So in all of this, as I was looking through the journey of people I have admired, been inspired by, or my own, building equity in strategic relationships for me is about weaving trust with every relationship that comes along your way. And that threadbare word for me is trust. You need to be trusted for The small thing like I have given her a call, she will call back. Small trust like I have entrusted her with this small request, it will come back. This multiplies to every day's worth to when complexities come the organization's way. And that is where equity in strategic relationship truly comes to picture. It's not directly a boardroom challenge that creates that equity and that spirit of trust. It's the smaller acts of every day. It's the smaller acts of building an allyship with your peers, with your colleagues, with your leaders as well, because your leaders are equally vulnerable today to the challenges of the environment around them. Taking a step back and sometimes being as simple as investing 2 minutes in their well being. How are you doing? How can I help you? It just creates a discrete sense of not just trust, but credibility in the relationship. So I would simply put maybe the word trust and work on that element of trust through not just performance, but a personal interest in carrying the relationship forward as my two nuggets for building and strengthening it.
Outstanding. I'm yet to hear a better definition when you say it's your shareholder value. You're the stock. And I love the equal thing. Quickly, you backed it up by saying, do you demand? First you give and then second you demand. I love that. Is there any anecdote that you can share, Manu, where this, you obviously built it. There's no doubt about that. But then that came to rescue. And I know you spoke about many things in your work life and the personal, the integration. Is there anything else in the corporate and assignment complexity when you saw that come to life? And you're like, yeah, I have equity. And my stock is doing superbly well.
So if some of my colleagues in Sony are listening to this, I'm sure this example is going to click a button for them. But this is one which is in the recent times very close to my learning and therefore what I share as a shareholder value. When I joined Sony Pictures, it was a very awkward situation which created this Mumbai Delhi perspective to work, to live at one place and to work at another place. Today it's become a part and parcel. I'm talking about 18, 19 when it was there, but fewer of us used to do this mobility game. It took me a lot of time to create that balance of why I wanted to do this arrangement of living in Delhi, having the family ecosystem here, and every single time build that trust, build that, equity with every week, being there Monday, coming back Friday, every Monday, every Friday, being a part of every element of business opportunity that was there. We created our first strategic output of SDNI 3.0 in my first 3 months, and I practically would have put 18 to 20 hours of my day to make that happen. Why I build that example is that it took years and years of one step at a time, 1 week at a time, one day at a time. To today, when I look back, working in Delhi and Bombay is as effortless as being anywhere in the world. My organization does not even ask me the first question, where are you? The first question which comes from my stakeholder is, hey, this is a business challenge we're facing. How do we tackle this?
Outstanding.
And this relatability to outcomes versus presentism took that element of building the brick of trust one by one. And for some of us who are listening in, and if you do manage such relationships, my one tip for you would be in any situation that you get in, invest that time to give and then be rightfully demanding when to get some returns out of that invested trust as well.
Outstanding. Spoken like a true banker. Let's have credit. Let's have deposits first.
Exactly.
Right? We talk about withdrawing, but let's have that credit. Let's go all out. And it's so heartening to hear the focus on hard work. That's amazing. I mean, we're almost like, I've heard this, oh, why work hard, let's work smart. And I'm not going to get into that debate. I personally don't think I have a lot of patience on it. And I'm like a hard worker, 18, 20 hours. It's just so refreshing to hear that. And we are not taking any shots here to say, lest this gets criticized or aimed at differently. We are saying we work hard, Manu works hard, and that's there. And you work hard. And what you also said is, I love that, Manu. It's not a boardroom game that suddenly one day pops up at the canvas. Right? How you show up to work every day, walk in relationships every day, that builds the edifice. Brilliant. Love it.
I do want to add to something you
Sure.
stated, and everything that you stated is dot on. And that wave that you just created visually brings me to a very interesting facet, Supriya, which I've at least tried to apply. Once again, thanks to the amazing learning of many leaders, including yourself, is don't burn yourself out with every single day trying to be the hardworking, person. Balance it off. And I've tried to do it every single day as much possible that when my canvas needs work, it's 18 hours work. But when I know my canvas doesn't need that 18 hours, I'm not going to show my presentism and I still do a lovely swim early afternoon. Do I still have a coffee chat with a friend? To going out for a nice drink early evening? Because that allyship will not get created if you're only working hard. It's also the emotional and social connect which you have to build. In a man's world earlier, golfing was used to, golfing, if you remember, used to be the in thing that, you need to be in that network of drinking clubs and golfing clubs. Today, it's much easier. You can be as effortless to have an afternoon coffee or a lunch with somebody. And I do think many of us need to just balance this 18 hours in a way that it maximizes our return on the day spent. And in fact, my journal every night, which I write, critical question for me there is what did you get out of the day today and what's your plan tomorrow? So
My
I'm
God.
not sure every day will give me a return, but every day should give me the satisfaction that I did the right things.
Outstanding. You just got me curious. I love everyday journals and I fail miserably at that, which is why I love it because I so feel at it. It is still in my dream to say, and I journal every day. Only thing I do is a 5 minute of close my eyes and say, thank you, God. It's just a prayer to say thank you for a day gone by and give me the energy to get up because I'm on my entrepreneurial journey. I'm starting from zero and trying to build a one. But I also just look at broadly reflections to say, if I close my eyes, is it a good feeling, calm, or unsettled? Because unsettled, then why? And then you clean your slate and you figure, lost it a bit, or didn't speak up when needed, left a conflict on the table, or too much. And then it's your check. But is there any interesting journal entry in the last few weeks gone by that you'd love to share? Curious I am, Manu.
I wish I could kind of just send you a share button on my journaling app and I can, you're a trusted ally for me. But every
And
day something new comes up, as simple as yesterday night, my journal was about showing courage and grit in front of a stakeholder whom I had never interacted with and who presumed some facts. So you have to show up with courage and with grit to stand up and say, this is what is right. So sometimes when you don't have a credit chip as well, you take the layer of objectivity and what's right for the system or the purpose you're working for. So just last night's journal for me was as simple that, hey, I went in too strong for this person, but I did the right thing because the company needed it. So I had a happy sleep.
kudos to you for that one, for standing up and, of course, being so purpose focused and doing the right thing. We had a segue into balance your life. That's one for sure. Work when you need to, but learn once in a while to take the foot off the pedal. You don't need to accelerate every time, but also invest in relationships. Let me talk to us about how we always say that women don't network as much. They ought. There are these big boys clubs that exist for good or bad reasons. They exist, and maybe it's just legacy we are continuing. At Beagle, we are all about, like we say, we are talking about women big CEO ready, but our focus is also just how do we get women to network, create a space, and we run the Leaders Network where women show up. We try to meet, and of course, we do a lot of stuff online. That's the world we live in. So, how do you break this? How do you use network? How do you get to network? Either you join men's circles or you create your own. What is your insight here? I would ask you.
I think on the art of building network, it starts from your intent to be available. Between a choice of being busy with tasks to being purposeful with your calendar is the first advice I would have for anybody. I followed it and it helps me immensely. And it's your choice to allocate the 8 hours to 10 hours on how you wish. The second piece is being absolutely comfortable with reaching out and saying, hey, I loved you in this session. Can we catch up for a coffee? And 9 out of 10 times, people are more than available to share their learning, their experiences. Now, sometimes it could also be that it's absolutely a cold call, so you build in relationships through partners around. I think for me, what started with and it continues is building blocks. You start with home, which is your workplace or your entrepreneurial space. Make sure that there is enough and more relationship which connects you to the next. Be available, be comfortable to say that I'm going to take 2 to 3 hours out of my week to intentionally meet somebody new in my life. Intentionally be a part of a journey which I did not know, learn something new. So if you plan your calendar of the week in such a way and allocate a percentage of it, you will find ways of getting many connects. Because today the means are there. Thanks to the foundation that you have put the building blocks to and many others, there are avenues available today. It's like a situation you can get the horse to the well, but you cannot make it drink water. You need to be intentful to drink the water of allyship, of friendships, of networking around. And once in a blue moon, it does not hurt you to have a single malt with this big boys club because it's equally fun. Let me tell you, rather than resisting it, it's equally fun. And I thoroughly enjoyed that space as well.
I couldn't agree more. I go back to my conversations, invest in digital traveling, enjoying networking. And that time I used to say, Manu, in a very lighter way, in that, this cafe coffee tea came over with it, a lot happens over coffee. And I'm like, oh my God, we're already, wondering why have a coffee, what will come, this the very segregated world of man and woman. And I'm like, befriend, learn, join.
Exactly.
Lend trust, and of course, be very quick to exit and stand up if it doesn't work for you. But like you said it beautifully, experiment. You love that. I think what I'm loving in this conversation is, and that's a hallmark of great leaders, when they can simplify the most complex subject. Equity for you is equal to trust in your value in the system. Amazing. I love that. Networking, we can talk about tips and strategies and all of that. And you said it's about being intentional first, and second, purposeful with your calendar. Manu, is there a book coming very soon?
I think you and I should go author one.
I'll take you on that offer. Oh my God, I just love that. I love the simplicity. And I also will go back and relate to that. That when we were in GE, I would look at complicating my assignments. And I remember Murli would tell me, do a simple assignment. Why does it have to be a Bill Connety's concept in your presentation? And I'm like, now I realize when I'm doing my PhD that I love concepts and theories. But I think early on, you're complicating. I think complexity attracts us. And then somewhere down the line, simplicity attracts. But kudos and compliments, Manu, for distilling it to such a simple level that it's easy. Thank you for that. I would love to get your perspective, Manu, on, I was talking to someone in US and they're like, there is now DEI backlash and all that. Don't want to get into that side of the story, but we're talking about now what can women do, being strategically intentional, but what can organizations, we're missing, Manu. If you, with your expertise and experience, were to take a shot at saying, we organizations exist and many other capable ones and brilliant organizations exist because there's a gap that needs to get bridged. Why does that gap exist today at the top is where I'm questioning. And what is it that we can do to plug? What would your expert insight in a simplified way would be? I know some magic is going to get unleashed now.
I think the gap at top, and I'm kind of more looking at it from a lens of gender diversity, if that's where the
women in leadership, yes.
Women. And more and more as I've experienced it, Supriya, sitting in some of the boardrooms, I've realized that it's the discomfort of the women leaders sometimes itself, which first starts with many prejudices and biases of women's presence in boardrooms. And somewhere in my mind, it starts from being careers where we're hesitant to not speak up when there are opportunities, wherein we are not equipped or we question ourselves to take the complex assignments, wherein we are always in a mode of taking permission to drive the next chapter of career. And many such, I'm sure your experiences will add to my list. But the fundamental driver in my mind, which lands up becoming a limiting factor, and this is again thanks to another colleague and dear friend who I had the pleasure of interacting with in my career is, and she stated that the three ends land up impacting you, which is marriage, motherhood, and mobility. If in some shape and form these three challenges are tackled by the women leader herself, her personal ecosystem, and the corporate ecosystem of sponsors, allies, as I spoke about, more and more women are definitely geared up to get that participation at top. The elements of performance, hands down, it has been showcased time and again that women are far superior delivery managers. Women are far more inspirational in herding, a teams towards challenging complexities of the world. They're far more equipped to handle the VUCA world we live in and the Bani world we live in. It just shifts the gear when these three tipping points are tackled and you are able to move to the next milestone. So that's my limited view. In the boardroom, why the retention doesn't happen. So this is like rise to a boardroom is that we take things too personally. I kind of believe that there's a
Yes,
lot of
thin skin. I was told once you have thin skin develop. I'm like, oh my God, did someone ask me to just pick a rhinoceros?
exactly. So that piece of being either a rhinoceros or being just an elephant skin. I don't know what to say, but just brush it off and move on because
Choose
this is
your animal, ladies, and then just unleash that animal because that's what you need in a man's world. Oh my God, Manu, I hope somebody doesn't kill us right now.
no, but I would honestly say that it does help if you're
Yeah.
able to let go, not personalize matters and not individualize matters and not genderize matters that, what, it happened to me because I am a female leader. No, it just happened to you because there was a mess in the delivery or there was a mess in the presentation, and just move on and just do the next round, which is better than the previous. So
Brilliant.
I would believe that if more of us remove the inhibition of the gender that we represent and somehow that perception that comes from our upbringing that this gender is somewhat not equitable to men because of the physical prowess, you're just dealing with person to person relationships. And it's your strength of individuality which helps you be stronger and be inspirational, like many others at top.
Outstanding. So prepare for the fight. Well, there is a fight down there. Prepare the
Yep.
fight. And don't take it personally. Brilliant. We tend to do that. Lovely. Keep it issue based. And I think sometimes we also, Manu, get that. I've heard this criticism in global conversations where they say that in other nations, you can discuss an issue, have a fight, and go out, step out, and quickly have a drink and move on. Whereas sometimes in India, things get personal. So I've heard that even from a geographical the territories that we represent, sometimes I've heard that too. And it's interesting you talk about that in context of women too. But this is great. Women can do that. Lovely. The VUCA, the Bani world, and I love the Bani world. It's amazing. Talking about organizational, Manu, while this is all we can do, we can brave up. I think a lot of us have done it. A lot of us are doing it. I continuously see that in my last 5 years, it's amazing how many strong women I'm surrounded by, including on this session, a dynamic, disoriented, superbly talented, and someone who has a lovely family balanced life. So you have it all, and I think I just love that. What can organization do? And of course, women need to come forward and leverage that, but what can organizations do more to just make sure that when I'm reaching out, it's like we had the catcher in the pitcher, right? In the early days of a business process outsourcing world, we said we're going to pitch, but someone needs to catch. Now I'm raising my hand, Manu, but if I continuously get ignored, I have a problem. I am talking, but if I continuously get talked over, Indranu said that too. I'll talk and then I get talked over. But of course, nobody's going to come and say, "Listen to Supriya, you got to fight your own battles." But what can be in HR capacity, a leader capacity, a board capacity? Is my question.
Many things, and this is something which I highlighted that there are many of those attempts which can be done to get the horse to the well. Now, this is that perimeter creation that, hey, please come and elevate your game and we're going to help. One of the biggest things which I have experienced, and I'm sure many other colleagues who are listening in do find it useful, is women leaders should have the responsibility to create that circle of air cover for many other female co-workers around them. And I think this is one of the biggest things which women in corporate world specifically should do to others. If you start with creating circles of trust internally, where women feel comfortable to not just raise their hands for assignments, but also talk about challenges they face. It helps to have that open window. I'm not going to get into the basics of, please have these programs and this effort. A lot of the corporations do it. I'm
Yes.
sure there are world class examples available there. But what I have truly found, which is important, is to develop the necessity and the business necessity of why inclusion is important, why women participation is critical in workforce, and therefore talk about the advantages on productivity to business impact and create that necessity from a business leader perspective, male or female, to allow for that participation, sometimes even mandating it, sometimes even making sure that the balance of equation in the ecosystem is created by putting a top down push. Third, I strongly believe leaders of today who are successful at various CXO and specifically chair positions are like the one which you recently moved on from. The leaders walk that talk. And it's very important to have the head of the organization truly believing in the purpose of inclusion and diversity. And therefore, the rest of the organization automatically taking a note of that. And for me, somewhere that scorecard from the top sets the tone for the rest as well. I can speak on and on about what organizations can additionally do on programs, but I go back somewhere to believing that women at workforce have to take charge of this baton and maybe get out of this hesitation every single day which they face on representing a business purpose to being overstepped on a point of view. Got a lot of that, by the way, in many years, wherein virtual presence is almost ignored. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're virtually present, so therefore it's not even valuable. But I have seen over the years that when you count to 10 and 10 times say, hey, I have a point of view, the 10th time you will be heard. You won't get ignored, and you have to make it a point that you don't speak 100 lines, but that one line that you speak gets the apt attention of the people who are around in the room, because that is the line which has ideally changed the strategic choices which one is making to the debate that is going on. So I would say purposeful, intentful, hustle your way in, apart from the organization's intent, which I'm sure will continue to be there if the DNA of the organization is strong towards inclusion and diversity.
Outstanding, Manu. And you're saying it's a tag team effort. It is not that
Yes.
organizations will pitch and you don't catch it, show up. It's not that you will do it. There is work happening by outstanding HR leaders as yourself. And of course, the foundation is we need obviously the business leaders and everyone else at the leadership to be intentional about it. And we are seeing a lot of that, of course. But it's a tag team effort. It is not that till the time it is balanced, it's very clear, women, till we feel it's an equitable world, each one of us have to make our effort. If that means twice as much, well, that's it. Because it's not like there is any other solution surfacing. Each one of us push forward. And I'm sure we will see. That's how we got independence. That's the third largest ecosystem in the world for entrepreneurs. We are the second democracy. Well, that was an effort one too, but we are also the third fastest economy by 2027. Yes, so amazing. But when you look at women leaders and they are now at the VP level or whatever that be, let's say 15 to 18 years, you're now getting at a CXO level. When you are having a choice of a candidate for a CEO, and of course, talent wins at that level, which we had the Being CEO Ready conference, and it was amazing throughout the day. The theme was, it is talent. It is talent. Nobody's going to put a CEO just because she's a woman or just because he's a man. It's talent at that level. And I think the race is still reaching that level. What would you think some of the experiences women can pick up so that they are apex role ready? They are the lead role ready. Like,
I may sound like a broken record, but the experiences one picks up
by
on the
far.
The experiences one should pick have to bring complexity and depth to what you contributed. So choose assignments over, uh, I would say, what may be simple and easy and perceptibly doable by 9 out of 10. Pick up the one which is 1 out of 10. Second would be build inspirational leadership traits around. And I believe that a few things that distinguish leaders who are tapped for CXO and CEO roles are centered around a sense of inclusion, ability to stay calm under crisis, not be reactive, somebody who is purposeful and energizing to the team around them and not necessarily a critique driver, and a person who's recognized as building world class leaders amongst themselves. If you are able to, in your challenging assignments, also work towards your traits being recognized under this personal brand, your race to the top becomes relatively faster and easier. Last but not the least, and I find this difficult to say, but I say it with absolute honesty. Business or financial acumen is a must, and somehow it's just that fine balance of business financial acumen which kind of gets subsumed in the qualitative aspects which I just mentioned about. So it's an interesting one, but one has to balance that you are rightfully intending to drive the business with a growth mindset and come along with the characteristics of what a truly world class inspirational leader has to be. So, in my view, the nuggets of assignments have to be centered around these, and it's not that Rome was built in a day. So, your career trajectory also cannot be one assignment only and one interaction only.
Outstanding. Well, this is brilliant, and I love that. These are the qualities and the traits that are listed out. You've shared a lot of life nuggets, and I love the fact that choosing complex assignments continues to be a thread. And I think throughout, nine are going for one. Well, there is that one. Go for it. And I've heard stellar leaders equally as yourself say that more often that, that's the way to get noticed. So that's brilliant. I'd love to know a little bit more of your personal journey when you're looking at taking a step back. And you said that almost getting off the cliff, and there are these mentors who hold you. Talk to us a little bit about that conversation. Did you lead it? Did they lead it? How did you manage to stay? And there must have been so many challenging moments. It's as much beautiful to have a house full with twins. The personal challenge of a distant marriage. What two, three things that you did different? Because we've seen a lot of women take a break and then come back and sometimes struggle to come back. And I always say, stay in the game. Slow down, but stay. And you're a great example of that, to staying in the game and then balancing it all over a period of time.
So, what you've stated again kind of gives me a little bit of a pat on the back that, hey, it's a lovely view of the iceberg on the top. Let me give you the stories
Yes.
below it on whether it was uh, a distant marriage relationship for 7 years, which is now clocked in a total of about 24 years in the going,
That's right.
to kind of having motherhood as the pivotal moment of my life when the going was great in a corporate scenario. I think it's not one conversation that kind of helps. It's truly being authentic and vulnerable about who you are and what you're going through. I do realize that as leaders, as employees, or at any stage of the ecosystem one is, we try to present our strongest picture forward
Uh,
because it's a person each person world. India is 1.4 billion people. Opportunities are galore, but so are the talented people behind it. So you're always racing against time to be the next to the best. And in that spirit, what I may say is very counterintuitive, but it has helped a lot of people, including myself. Be authentic, be true to yourself, be true to the world around you, be intentful in stating that that may be my vulnerability, but I'm not going to get my vulnerability come in between the purpose that I'm driving, and just reiterating it and delivering it with examples. Words alone don't matter, execution does. So, to some extent, the balance of being true to yourself, showcasing it, and delivering to every promise you made helps the cause.
Outstanding. You're a living example of walk the talk. How I am to have run into you, to have you and host you here at this outstanding session. I love the fact that it's all about the small things, showing up, walk the talk, and being authentic and vulnerable. That personally resonates a lot, Manu. And again, I'm sure when you're saying it amongst a group that you trust, that you have built relationships over a period of time. So within that circle, I do that. Talking about why sometimes we don't do that, we don't build that circle. Because sometimes we think that one bad experience and we try writing it off. It's like getting on the saddle and then falling. How do you get back on the saddle again? It's like a war out there. It's tough, imperative. How do you get back on the saddle?
I could say it very easily that dust yourself up and get back on track. It's not that easy. Trust me, it takes the whole cycle of managing grief in your life. The cycle of grief is one what gets through when you're going through a failure or you're going through that vulnerable moment. The truth be told, you should go through that cycle of grief, right from denial all the way to final acceptance. And once you've done it, and the more you do it, and the faster you are in going through that cycle, sometimes malls help, sometimes friends help, sometimes the ecosystem helps. Just train oneself to get back on it. And it takes one or two times that rhythm to know that you're not the only one in the world. So, personally, again, I'm kind of giving you an example which could be completely off the corporate book, but it helped me immensely. I redirected my attention to faith. I started a lot of things which connected me to the bigger purpose of our being.
Beautiful.
And sometimes, when you redirect your attention to something which is much larger than who you are, you do land up realizing that the failure or the vulnerable moment you went through has no significance in the larger ecosystem the world will carry around, people will carry around. So, why are you getting so messed up in this small event that happened? Just move on. The next day is a better day. The day after, hopefully, will be better. And life will somehow come back to a circle. So, that's kind of some of the things that have helped me and have gone through many challenging moments where I almost got off the saddle. I felt badly. I bruised myself as well. But just, come back up, reduce the cycle of grief, and make sure you have some good friends who can help you cheer up and give you a pat on the back that you're not done and dusted.
Outstanding. Outstanding. And this was a magical and a mystical answer to say, have faith, because, it's like you're right. Sometimes our problems are larger than life because we are facing them. And I think having a distant view and an out of body view from that perspective helps, Manu. Manu, you land is extremely calm, sorted, simple in your messaging. You just gave us one insight to say what leads you to this. What else? What else does Manu do to be who you are today? And if you may, at some point, talk to us about one challenge that you were like, I'm done. This is it. And then you came back on the saddle and talk to us about that.
Who I am on a day and what I do to continue to be sane in the world that we're living today. And my life circles around a hysterical family. It circles around a hysterical workplace. It's going through its complexities. And my personal life, where I've not spoken much about, is as women, we defocus on our health conditions, our personal well. So, between all of this, making sure that my checklist for the week purposefully driving me towards these three focal points of my life is there. And I'm keeping myself honest to being justified in spending the time that I do in these three. And for any one of you, it could be five of those focal points of your life at different places. The second part of the question, which you stated, example where I fell off and I came back up. I could quote many. The recent one or the amongst the recent ones I can share is this was my first 6 months in the company I work in, Sony Pictures, and we've driven some fabulous changes, strategic choices. There's a high in the moment, and there is a credibility which is building up. And I'm doing my Delhi Bombay, by the way, and everything is moving in line. We launched a interesting effort in which a set of stakeholders are supposed to speak to the entire organization live. And let me be honest, at that point of time, technologies like Riverside did not exist. I'm talking about 6 years ago. And we chose the classical methods. Technology evolution definitely was low. And this is my first stint wherein a traditional set of leaders who have never done this format of addressing workforce at large around the globe happening. And I'm looking at them and saying, I trust you. You can do this. Everything is fine. Let's go ahead. Let's make it happen. And this is the first address which never has happened in the company virtually, because the addresses have always been in person. So here I'm trying to drive a digital agenda that connectivity can happen anywhere. We kind of do everything, everything's fine, and we say action, and the technology does not work. It just does not work. And we try and we hustle, and there are these senior leaders, board members, everybody's in the room, and we're hustling, trying to make it happen. It's amazing colleagues like you around the world who are waiting for some action to happen, because the CEO with his board is supposed to share the strategic choices of SPNI 3.0 and what it means. Failed, and it failed like an egg on my face. So I cannot tell you. I think I could have not had a moment of where you feel like you're about to get your heart pounding and shutting down. Went through that. But I think fast tracking it to this incident, I'm sharing with you of which I laugh at right now.
Of
The
course.
fast tracking of it only happened because quickly, because I have kind of mastered the art of, as I say, of passing through the grief circle. I accepted. I went to the board and I said, I accept this happened. It messed up. From acceptance, quickly moving to giving them a failure mode of why it happened. And then just objectively stating why it will never happen under my watch in future.
Oh
So
my.
I think objectively just taking charge of the matter personally, it still hurts me, but you moved on from it because you solved for the equation there and then and worked through. In my personal life, I think the tragic moments have been the choices on culture misses I had. And when you have a cultural mischoice in the corporation you're working in, it hits you badly because somewhere you question yourself that, hey, you did not try to fit in. You did not try to make pals around. Little
Yeah.
did you realize that you were a round peg in a square hole.
Yeah.
So it's okay. So grief on both is okay. Fast tracking that grief cycle, accepting, taking accountability, and comfortably being public about it as well has been another learning of mine. Don't try to hide away in a curtain, and don't try to go to a bathroom and cry for many hours and tell the world around that, no, it's everything's fine, it's perfect. Let them see the swollen eye. It's okay. They'll say it happened, but I'm moving on.
Outstanding. If this wasn't virtual, I would so just come and hug you right now and say, oh my God, bravo. Outstanding. Lots and lots of love and respect on the right now. I am feeling like a huge flow of emotions coming in and saying, whoa, whoa.
You're very kind with your words.
You're so inspiring, Manu, so inspiring. And I love the fact that in this world of fast track moving on, we always, I mean, that's the family I come from. If I fall, they're like, dust, 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 move on. And I sometimes realize that I don't move on that fast. I take my time. I take my time to reflect what caused it. Where did I go wrong? What did I not like? What were my reactions? I used to call it reflection till now, that I'm a soul that lives in reflection. Well, from here on, my vocab is going to be a bit different. I'm a soul that grieves happily. I'm a soul that grieves happily. And I like my grief. I love the way you have it's so much of courage to grieve. Just love that. You've added so much of to authenticity. You've added so much of charisma to it, magic to it. We all talk about authentic leadership, but this is what it looks like, Manu. Looking at you, talking to you, right? Well, this is what it looks like. Thank you so much. And it doesn't look authentic, bold in the face to say, I will kill you with my words. No. Authenticity is also can be calm. It's like, take it or leave it is what we know authentic, right? Or this is me taking. No, authenticity can be calm, sorted, confident, inspiring. So thank you so much, Manu. And I love the fact that grieve and then shut into thing. Thank you so much for sharing that. My heart almost was beginning to pound in my chest to say, oh my God, oh my God. But love the fact that you showed courage in walking up to the board, ownership, accountability, and saying, I will put my badge on the table. Ain't happening again on my watch. What confidence. Who wouldn't love an executive like that to sit alongside in the chair on the boardroom? I'm sure the members are enjoying it. The viewers are listening who are loving it. We have a few questions, Manu. I can go on and on, but this is like we said, you and I are chatting, and we have you here for our members and for our live audience here. And please keep chatting and writing in the questions. This is your turn, and I already see some questions popping up, and I'll be more than happy to relay those and have Manu answer them, for you. So I'm going to take one from. So please fire away. Question from Premlata. She's like, Manu, the tone from management is setting the tone for diversity and inclusion. And there are complex assignments coming for women's way, and that's happening. However, women fall short, or sometimes a missing experience and exposure. And we take it as, yeah, the question pops up, amazing. And then we take it as to say that, this is okay. What is your advice to how do we basically have more people? She's saying, let me see that. And this is accepted instead of challenging it by the majority. Yeah. So basically, how do we make sure that we have women rising to the challenge of expertise and experience, and we are building than taking it as a norm to say they don't have it, so let's move on.
Premlata, thank you for the question, and Supriya, thanks for build that network of stakeholders around you who believe in the capability you bring to the table. Second, do not leave even a single opportunity to showcase that capability or expertise. There are many opportunities in organizations where one can raise hands to showcase that capability without having a proper opportunity coming your way. And showcasing that capability could be in the form of a challenging assignment that's going around and there's a hand that's needed to help with it. I will share with you an example of a colleague, and if she's listening, she must know I admire her for what she did. We had a new hire who came in from an interesting background of having led some critical marketing function and agencies before. And the month she joined in COVID, and at the time, she had no head and clue of how to digitally manage things. And we were looking into celebrate our 25th anniversary as a company. Simply put, we were looking for people, and this lovely lady who would come in from marketing of movies and very different expertise comes in and say, hey, can we manage it for you? I don't know a dime of how will I do it virtually, but let me figure it out.
Outstanding.
And she just picked it up. And trust me, that 25th anniversary, which was done virtually for the company with this entire array of virtual reality, space getting created, the crowds, management, games happening virtually, everything under the sun, and alongside the offline activities with things happening to families and employees. She did not need to do that, right? She's coming in from movies marketing. She has delivered marketing efforts for movies like Piku.
Yeah.
And here she walks in and says, hey, let me just try. Let's kind of work around something which is completely different, employee focused. Fast track that, there are many such examples which I can share where male or female, you just need to raise your hand to showcase what you bring to the table.
Outstanding.
Then the opportunities come your way. So I hope I kind of made sense of it. A proper interview in an internal job posting is not really the point of showcasing your capability. It's everyday nuggets and the connects that you have and the number of sponsors and the number of influencers that speak for you.
Outstanding. I almost sometimes felt in my personal life, my hand is always up. And when is it going to go down? And I would pick up the phone, Manu, and talk to my mom saying, I'm tired, I'm burnt out, and I don't think I can do this anymore. And mom is like, whenever it's a year, 2 years, and you're getting comfortable, and then you go and raise your hand for something else. You need to decide what you want. And, it took a lot of soul searching, Manu, for realizing, and I quit, right? I quit my job and saying, I'm going to sit at home and do probably nothing. And now I have lovely foundation with outstanding members and distinguished guests as yourself. And then, of course, I have a fund that I run now. And then I'm like, okay, now I've realized work is what I love. I love family. I like balance. But that 18-hour hustle of doing something I haven't done before and wondering I'm going to fail and putting myself out there, well, that's what I love. So I think I just love being called stupid and not knowing, and then knowing that I know it. Just love that journey. So thank you so much, Manu, for saying, raise your hand. Your expertise need not come in, my understanding, it did not come in a defined, chartered way. You can relate your experience in multiple other ways and showcase. It doesn't have to be a lovely, state or formatted intervention. Thank you so much. Lovely answer. We have many questions now. Manu, when you're scouting for your next assignment, love this one. What is it that you're evaluating and how do you know It's time for a new challenge.
This is a very contradictory, it's a very, I would say, well, it's an interesting question. And you asked me at a point where I think I'm exactly at that tipping point. And when you reach that tipping point, there's something inside you makes you realize it, that the repeatability of being there, done that increases. The law of diminishing returns starts to take the priority, that your pleasure of doing something has drastically reduced from when you did it the first time. Your amount of newer experiences in a week has reduced. I'm giving you some very measurable ones for you to consider. And in your heart, I think what I call as the sixth sense, your sixth sense tells you when it's time for a new challenge. Now, the question is whether you search for that newer challenge in the ecosystem of the world around us, or you have a mentor and a guide and a coach internally in your current organization to walk up and say, hey, it's time for a new challenge. What should I do? Either choices are there. Keep your CV always dust free. I always believe giving interviews refreshes you. It makes you, agile. It makes you peppy to know what you stand for. And internally, having those mentors and those shareholders, as I say, also helps you to know your internal worth in the company, because every single time a challenge comes in this head, that what do I do next? If your organization is able to create the space, it meant that you had a high shareholder value.
Outstanding. Lovely nuggets and great pointers. Absolutely specific. Love that. Thanks, Shalu, for asking that question. Question from Mona. And these are all Bagel members. Touching upon balancing time for health, hobbies, family, and work. And I love that, Manu, when you said that. I always used to say it's not just work, family, is work, family, and yourself. You're a living example, shining example of that. So, touching upon balancing time for health, hobbies, family, and work, being organized, using delegation, what else has been working for you? Clearly, they know that you're organized. Clearly, they know you delegate. And I loved it somewhere saying, in discipline finds freedom. You're again a shining example of that. Every week and day, your calendar, you're being so purposeful. What works for you, Manu?
You'd laugh at my response, Mona, but it's my honest submission to you. Having somebody managing that life calendar for you who knows you inside out is the key. And you'd laugh at this one because you'd say, you know what, I manage my own calendar. But I think it's just the art of balancing and prioritizing. It works. Second, don't try to find perfection or precision in this. Be comfortable and go with the flow of what life is offering you. So it's almost like don't be a stick, but be like a leaf which is comfortable, which is like, okay, I'm not able to meet everything that I signed for, but I'm going to go back to ground zero and work again. In fact, if audience can see my screen, it says restart. Today is a great day. You kind of just don't get hung up on the balance that you're trying to create. You won't be perfect every time. As long as you know that in the larger picture, you've met largely what you attempted to do. Being purposeful about that goal. So I hope I've given you some bit of a view on this. The last one I'll add, and I think you asked me this pointed one, and I highlighted this to Supriya in my previous example, redirecting your energy towards some form of faith. Because when you are going haphazard and not knowing which part of your life to control, faith becomes that central, I would say, core of your presence, which brings you back to balance. So faith could be anything in your life. I'm very, I would say I go to a church with as much of religious belief as I go to a temple, as I would go to a mosque or a gurdwara. So for me, faith is not about just one element. It's just about belief that you are a part of a much higher ecosystem, and therefore you don't have to take all the pressure of life on yourself. Let the energy around you as well play to its parts. I hope, Mona, it helps you.
Was helping me, certainly. I'm sitting and saying,
You're kind of just too kind with words, and I've learned a lot in person and in distance, Supriya, with you being in my life. So when we reverse this chat show, I'm sure your nuggets will equally inspire me.
my God, that day in SCM HRD, hiring the batch of 2000, bringing her to HR, LP of, Jacques Technology Center and World G. Manu, in the 20 things that I think I did well, this will be shining moment.
Yoo-hoo! So this is like one of those yoo-hoo moments.
Someone said hire people better than you. Zillion times better than you is what you have here. Outstanding. Lots of love for you.
That's, by the way, I have learned from you. Hire people who would, you should always be surrounded by people who challenge you. And I kind of have always seen you being surrounded by people who are superlative in their experiences because that experience has helped you being where you are. And you're an inspiration to the world yourself, Supriya.
I just love what I see here, Manu. Thank you so much. This is all about you right now. Would love to know more. This is a question from Vibhuti. Would love to know more about how did you balance? Oh my God, even I wanted to know this. How did you balance Delhi Mumbai travels with also with your twins? Vibhuti is a very young mother. I'm not surprised this question coming. What suggestions would you have for us?
Vibhuti, if you're a young mother, I would say make sure that you're taking your husband out for dates, feeding him well, or your partner, whichever choice of life you have. Make sure your ecosystem of friends, of families around you. The reason of my being able to thrive in the Delhi Mumbai travel zone that I live and breathe today is somehow the ecosystem of my family believed in my purpose and my purposeful intent of being a part of an organization which I felt related to. And they galvanized to make my life happen. And I'm forever thankful to them. It is not easy. It is impossible sometimes in nuclear families, and tough choices have to be made. But be comfortable with those tough choices as well. For example, while I do a Delhi, Bombay, but my tough choices continue to be that, hey, I can't do a Bangalore. I can't do a Chennai. I can't do a Hyderabad now. So be comfortable in also accepting where your limitations are and where you're making it happen. Make sure that your immediate family believes in your purpose and galvanizes to make it happen for you. Second, don't be apologetic about being away from your child. And I know it happens to all of us. I till now feel apologetic. Somewhere in 13 years of experience as a parent, I can tell you that it is about the quality of time invested than quantity. Today, the world is so connected with technology that you can find your space of being connected to your child. For example, in my last few years, and my team laughs at it, I have a structured time when I'm traveling to speak to my kids. And at that point of time, whosoever enters my room, they get to equally say hi. And I'm absolutely comfortable with my kids being exposed to my work. Like, as an example, many of the COVID days, I would have chats and kids would be flocking at the back. I'd be like, okay, that's my life. I can't help it, right? And sometimes, in fact, it happened one time. If my current boss was listening, he'd laugh at that example. One of my daughters, and she was very young at that time, 6 years or 7 years old, when the COVID crisis happened. And they're having this intentful call. She walked past one time. She walked past two times. And it's 1:30 p.m. and she's hungry. Third time, she literally walks in and says, NP sir, I'm sorry. I'm introducing myself. You remember I met you 6 months ago. Can I please ask my mother to come down for lunch? Nobody's eating lunch without her. Oh my God. So I could have felt gutted at that time. Trust me, I could have felt gutted. Like, what the hell has my child done to me? I just laughed it out in front of my leader, who equally took it in spirit because I did not feel embarrassed about it. So just blending in that space where people around you feel comfortable to embrace that life pattern that you have is equally helpful. I'll kind of just pass on maybe some of these tips, and I'm happy to chat with you offline about this forever loving topic of mine of motherhood in a Delhi Mumbai travel.
This is so beautiful, Manu. Love that. Love. So, just curious, twin daughters?
Yes.
Oh, and they have such a proud mama, as a role model. They don't need to look too far. They're right here. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. There was so much of dose of authenticity and vulnerability, and I love that, Manu. I'm almost tempted to say how we respond to a situation is also going to be how the world responds to us. We cringe, maybe the world will cringe. We cringe, there's a possibility they won't let us cringe, and that's the world of allyship and supporters you're talking about. They'll say, don't, Manu. It's okay. But the beauty is to not cringe. The beauty is to take it in your stride, and lovely. Awesome. Brilliant. More questions, and we have 5 minutes to go. I'll make it quick. This is a question from Subega, like mostly women, and we have two male members, and it's just a question from Ananta. Ananta is asking, Manu, while we women are hardworking and committed, when he says we women, not we, because he's a male member, how do you incorporate smart work and draw a line to avoid? Oh, sorry, this is a question from Kavita, my bad. Is while we women are hardworking and committed, how do you incorporate smart work and draw a line to avoid burnout?
Thanks, Kavita. To your question, I'd keep it brief because I've answered this in some shape earlier. Be smart about your diary, starting with a year, which starts with the headlines you have for that year for yourself, coming down to the month as to what you would attempt to do to break that into maybe patterns of your work, and be intentful about the week that you spend. I have many examples in my life wherein I've spent 18 hours at work, but at the same time, many examples also wherein I've spent my reasonable time at work, but I have focused the rest of the time in my personal well being to my family's well being. In total, I know that I've done justice to all three, hopefully, but tried my best not to get burnt out by trying to just focus on one facet of life. Second, and this is important, and I must kind of propone this on your platform, Supriya, for 2 minutes, is your mental well-being is so critical in the world of today. Please do not put that as a back burner of I'll do it someday. You have to do it every single day. Like Supriya stated, she meditates or she uses a calm time for herself. Do that, do many other formats, but please do focus on your mental being alongside 1 hour of physical well-being. These are some very basic tips, but they tremendously help me today to make sure that I'm not getting overwhelmed with everything that is happening around.
Beautiful, beautiful. Question from Ananta was something that you've already answered, but I want to read out the question nonetheless. Is how do you manage frequent travels between Mumbai and Delhi? We can, by the way, it is laced beautifully. We can barely manage the Bangalore traffic. You answered that, Manu, unless there's any comment you want to give.
I can only say that Mumbai is equally bad when I travel to Mumbai. So share the pain, completely share the pain.
Thank you. Rupashree's question again you've answered, but happy to read that out. How do you handle failure or setbacks? How do you manage your mental well-being? And that's a great segue and prioritize your health. You shared that there is redirection to faith. Is there anything else, Manu, you'll share a tip or an insight to manage your mental well-being?
Lots of tips. In priority, make sure you have 1 to 2 friends around you who are your vulnerable points of consideration, and they could be childhood friends to work friends to anybody, but somebody you can trust with. Make sure you have at least a couple of those. It helps in your mental well-being. Third, do not reduce in your mind the significance of your social circle. Some of us who are introverts believe that, hey, going to a party is not important to me, and having a large group around me is not important. It's not the large group, it's not the party, it's not the group that's important. What is important is that you're making an intentful effort to be out there. And in today's world, I do believe that the social quotient is equally a contributor to mental well-being, is because your connectivity to the ecosystem bolsters you towards confidence as well. So be intentful, be smart about it. When Supriya holds the next Bagel Foundation's gala dinner event, make sure don't miss it. And, be kind of just purposeful in many of these things.
Outstanding. Be purposeful, be well intentioned, be intentful, strategic. The lessons in this podcast, in this fireside chats they're just amazing, Manu. Just love it. Manu, on a closing comment, who is Manu?
She is canvas on which some higher faith is just putting colors after colors, and it's a work in progress.
I just love the way you've given the entire ownership to a higher faith to paint your life. You surrender. You surrendered. Beautiful. Manu, we are at the top of the hour. We can go on, and I'll take you on a drink that we promised. So lovely. I shall be in Gurgaon. We will catch up. But for this session, Manu, thank you for gracing us with your presence. Thank you for sharing your life, a bit of your life, but very deep and amazingly, outstandingly valuable insights. Thank you for sharing yourself with us and helping us see who Manu is. And also, very importantly, thank you for talking about inclusion. That faith is not dependent on where you bow your head. You're amazing, outstanding, and we loved this conversation. It is recorded. Thank you, everyone who logged in, tuned in. Thank you, Bagel members, for tuning in. Thank you for your questions. Thank you so much. Indebted, loved it. And we can only wish you the best onward and forward, and may God's force be with you.
Thank you, Supriya and the Bagel Foundation, for having me. It's been such a pleasure to rediscover my own journey and have this amazing interaction with you. I've equally taken my learnings back, and I can't wait for the next round of interaction which you and I have in private. But big thank you for having me over. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, team. With this, we will log out. Thank you so much.
Take care, everyone. Have a good weekend ahead.